Wasabi wallet. Unfairly private.
What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we dive into everything, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a couple of different services, actually a few different services. One's a Bitcoin savings account where you can earn interest on your Bitcoin paid in Bitcoin. Another is a Bitcoin-backed loan, so you can use your Bitcoin as collateral to receive a Canadian or US dollar loan. So if you need to get your hands on dollars, don't want to sell your Bitcoin because you're worried about price movement, well, that could be a solution for you. Or if you're super long Bitcoin, you can use their B2X, or that's short for Buy 2X product, in which you can get double the exposure to Bitcoin. So if you want to check out either or any of those, click the link down below. And if you opt to get a loan, they'll actually credit you with an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin. And secondly, of course, if you're into Bitcoin, then privacy is very, very important. And one of the things that I use to help with that is NordVPN. So I have this on my computer, on my phone, and what it does is it hides your IP address, it encrypts your browsing data, and it has a bunch of other added benefits, including unlocking geo-block content. So if there's something you can't access from wherever you are in the world, well, you flip on NordVPN, set your desired country, and boom, there you go, content unlocked. So if you want to check that down below, there's a link and you can get the service for around $3 a month. With that, let's dive into the news. So yesterday we were talking about the supposed implosion of Einstein Exchange, which is based here in Canada. They've just been seized by the British Columbia Securities Commission. There is a lawsuit being launched as of October 15th against them from a company out of Hong Kong, alleging that they never paid over $1 million for cryptocurrencies that were delivered to them. And yeah, all around not looking great. And the company looks to be on the line for Einstein itself. Allegedly holds about 16 million Canadian dollars worth of cryptocurrency for its customers, and it's right now we're not quite sure what's there, what's not, and what is happening. But this brings to light the idea that you should only really have funds with a custodian ever if it's absolutely necessary, whether you're using a service or you're actively trading. But you always want to, when you can, have that Bitcoin in your own custody. If it's long-term holdings, if you're just holding it, do not leave it on an exchange or in the hands of a custodian. Myself, the large majority of my Bitcoin holdings are privately held. I use hardware wallets. I secure it myself and keep it in secure locations so that it cannot be compromised. They're my keys, they're my coins. Now, of course, I do sometimes utilize services if I need to or if I choose to take the risk, but you shouldn't be using an online exchange as your prime place that you hold your Bitcoin. It's just a terrible, terrible idea. And so this is the idea behind Trace Mayer's Proof of Keys. Now, this is the second annual Proof of Keys. What is Proof of Keys? Well, this is started this year, 2019, on January 3rd was the first one ever, and it is the day that is designated for all Bitcoiners to get their Bitcoin the hell out of the hands of custodians, even just for the day, to prove that the reserves are there and to show that you are capable of holding your own coins, that you have the keys. And what this does is it encourages custodians to be held to account. It encourages them to indeed have the reserves required in order to pay out everybody, so that if anything shady is going on, it will be incredibly evident if enough people partake in Proof of Keys. I partook in Proof of Keys in 2019, this year, but the next one's coming up. 2020, January 3rd. Why January 3rd? Well, that was the launch of the Bitcoin network. That was the mining of the Genesis block, January 3rd, 2009. So I'm very much looking forward to proof of keys this year. In fact, some of you might want to preemptively start getting some money off of exchanges. Why? Well, again, the Bitcoin network can only handle so many transactions per block. And last year when this happened, or I guess the beginning of this year when proof of keys happened, there wasn't a whole lot of notice. It was kind of a movement that sprang up very spontaneously. Well, there's a lot of notice this time, so I imagine that there will be more people partaking in it. Trace Mayer has already started pumping it, and that's the reason for this article here. He was pointing to the alleged implosion of the Einstein Exchange. He also made reference to Quadriga CX and a bunch of other exchanges that have been recently hacked. And he used the original video that he put out promoting proof of keys. So there's less than 60 days until proof of keys. Who's participating in 2020? Are you guys going to be participating? I hope so. So you can head over to the Proof of Keys website. There's a countdown, so 58 days until it happens. Tons of information there. And if you're a content creator yourself, you can also help spread the word, or even just put this little tag into your Twitter to raise awareness. There's the Proof of Keys hat, actually, right behind me on the wall. Proof of Keys hat there. I really think that this is an excellent ethos to be thinking about. It is kind of the ethos of a Bitcoin, not your keys, not your coins. And so to regularly every year hold these entities to account, to keep them honest, I think it's fantastic. So I do really encourage you to check out those links and to partake in Proof of Keys this January 3rd. So you got a couple months to prep. Start doing some intel. Start checking around on any old accounts. You might be surprised. You might find Bitcoin that you didn't realize you had. I know that happened to a number of people. Some people stumbled across Bitcoin that they had forgotten about because a couple years ago, a few years back, it may not have been worth as much, and it was a couple $100, and now it's a few thousand or whatever it may be. So yeah, do some intel, check out your old accounts, see what's still sitting there, and whatever it is, get it off there for January 3rd. And if you do need to return to a certain service or something afterwards, go ahead and do that after January 3rd. So let's move on here. Oh, the Bitcoin price. So CME, the CME group, this is the Bitcoin futures market where you can speculate on the future price of Bitcoin. Well, there was a gap. There's regularly a gap between what people are speculating the price will be versus what the price of Bitcoin actually is at the time that contract will expire. And a lot of the time, the Bitcoin price will move to meet the gap. To fill the gap, rather. And so, Bitcoin has been up in the low to mid 99,000s, but it was 8,500 was kind of the gap number to fill. And so what happened to the chart? Well, a sudden instant drop down to 8,500 before pretty much rebounding to 9,300 in no time at all, which really points out that there's some manipulation going on there. Like you have traders sitting on the sidelines saying, hey, I don't want to get completely wrecked by my calls on the CME here, speculating that it was going to be 8,500. Well, they dropped the price and then the market bought it right back up at a lower price and filled it up to 9,300 again. I don't know what we're sitting at currently. Let me check my phone here. Again, I don't know why I bring up price on this because by the time it airs, we're in the mid 9,300s right now. It looks like getting closer to 9,400. That dip was, if I had to speculate, again, just people trying not to get wrecked by their bad call on the CME to fill that gap, and we see it rebound right away. So that could be an indication too that people that were speculating also were obviously a little bit more bearish than they should have been, and perhaps that could be a good omen for the future moving forward. They might not want to be speculating on low prices. So I suppose we will see. Now, the perma bear for Bitcoin, moving on a little bit here, Peter Schiff, he was recently on Max Kaiser, and he said that China, which is looking to do some sort of a cryptocurrency that could be gold-backed, he says that this is bearish for Bitcoin, and that a gold-backed cryptocurrency would be way better than Bitcoin, which I find so funny. And he's just got the blinders on. He clearly still doesn't understand the value of Bitcoin, in that the asset itself is digital, therefore 100% verifiable on-chain, verifiable the entire reserves, not just your own transactions, but you can verify the entire Bitcoin network yourself. And he still doesn't understand that having a cryptocurrency backed by anything, including gold, completely negates the entire purpose of the network, because you're introducing counterparty risk. It doesn't matter if you say that a currency is backed by something, backed by gold, you're still trusting that somebody is going in and auditing that gold, because you can't do it yourself. This is why the gold standard failed, because individuals couldn't demand a real-time audit at any point. They got complacent, and more bills were printed than were actually representative of gold being held, and that was kind of the dissolution of the gold standard, when people started to clue in, and nations wanted to repatriate their gold, and there just wasn't enough in the US reserves, and Nixon called off the gold standard, and we've never returned. And so when I look at somebody like this saying that a gold-backed cryptocurrency is better than Bitcoin, 100% bullshit, because it just brings us back to maybe temporarily a more of a sound money standard, but what's going to happen? It's just going to gradually downgrade the exact same way that it did, because you have counterparty risk. So this just in, Peter Schiff still doesn't get it. Let's move on. And Ron Paul, so a very kind of famous libertarian-minded individual in the U.S., part of the U.S. government here. He did run for president at one point. So he pumped out a Twitter poll just the other day saying, hey, if you got an imaginary $100,000 suddenly, and you had to sink it into one of 4 investments for the next 10 years, and you could not touch it, what would you do? Well, that poll, the options were Federal Reserve notes, so dollars, gold, Bitcoin, or the 10-year U.S. Treasury bond. Bitcoin won out with a whopping, well, at the time of this article is 58, but actually 59% of the vote, with over 77,000 votes. And so what spurred on this poll was actually that Ron Paul was recently gifted his first physical Bitcoin wallet. Now, unfortunately, that was gifted to him by Bobby Lee with his, what the hell is it called? Ballet crypto wallet, in which you have to trust the company to create the private keys for you and not store a copy of it. And it's super sketchy. Now, it's nice that we have people promoting Bitcoin and cluing people like Ron Paul into it. Obviously, Ron Paul's familiar with Bitcoin, but it's nice that we have people kind of encouraging people to further dive down that rabbit hole. It's just unfortunate that it was gifted in a way that is, I think, incredibly insecure. Hopefully, the community at large, especially on Twitter, will be able to help Ron Paul get this Bitcoin into a more secure solution for storage. But anyways, cool to see. Always glad to see people like Ron Paul asking people what they think, and then the crowd coming back with a resounding yes to Bitcoin. Let's move on here. One last little fun tidbit. There is a guy from Illinois who won the lottery. He won $500,000, $500,000, and he ended up putting half of that money into Bitcoin. Now, it should be said that he did. Now, this was back in May. He got scalped on taxes. So the way that taxes work in the U.S. is a little bit different from in Canada. So in the U.S., you of course get taxed on any lottery winnings. I believe it's just regular income. In Canada, lottery winnings are tax exempt. So if you win $500,000, you get $500,000. Not the case in the States. So what did he come away with here? He actually came out with $357,000. Oh my God. So what is that? $143,000 worth of taxes right away. So that means that if he split it in half between Bitcoin, he would have sunk about $178,500 into Bitcoin. He did that back in May, and his investment is up 65% since doing that. So I mean, he's recouped a bunch of those taxes, so congrats to you for that. Now, while people applauded him for diving deep into Bitcoin, they did have some criticisms as well. One of which is that, hey, if you did fuck up in any way, it's that you should have put more into Bitcoin or all of it. But also that he has publicly kind of shown his face and said that he's now put this much money into Bitcoin, which could make him a potential target from hackers and people online. But also he's storing the Bitcoin in his trading app Robinhood, which we've just talked about, this proof of keys. And this guy said that the risk of him losing his cold storage wallet outweighed the security risk of trusting his coins to a centralized third party. I disagree. If you have Bitcoin in your own custody, you start to think more adversarially, and you start to consider all the ways that you could lose your money, and you start to try to mitigate that risk. I've definitely learned over the years different ways to mitigate that risk and have Bitcoin in different places with different devices in different locations. And so I very much advocate, maybe if he's not comfortable right off the bat, but to start gradually moving that into his own custody would be in this guy's best interest. But I don't know. What do you think? Let's wrap it up there. Thank you guys very much for watching. Of course, if you're new or if you've been around for a while, you can do a few things here. Like, subscribe, and share. Always share. Great to have new people watching, and welcome if you are new. If you want to help out the show in another way, the sponsors I mentioned at the beginning are linked down below, Ledn and Nord, and also check out Wasabi Wallet. It's always great to have privacy in concert with your Bitcoin. It's good to break those links between you and your Bitcoin so that you can enjoy that financial privacy from peering eyes. And finally, if you really like what you saw, you can hit me up with a Lightning Network tip via my tippin.me page. With that, I'm out of here. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I will see you tomorrow for your daily session.